Well, Alina, we're sorry that you're not able to be with us in London today, but delighted that we've been able to have this interview as a substitute. And I'm very interested to hear your particular perspective on this theme that we have for the day on collaboration in uncertain and changing, turbulent world. I mean, what does that theme mean for you and your work?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy for your invitation. So my name is Dr. Alina Nychuk, and first of all, I'm a global citizen. I support international cooperation. I lived in 9 countries and visited more than 30. I'm a political scientist and a social activist. And through my work, I always cooperate with different countries. For instance, I'm often a guest at different international conferences and trainings. And in my opinion, we can change the world for better. We are sharing our needs and ideas with each other and searching for mutual and beneficial solutions. So I'm always in international cooperation with different countries.
Yeah, and tell us just a little bit about the work that you are doing at the moment. What's the subject of your own research?
So my PhD was about EU-Ukraine-Russia relations during the first year of the war, and currently I'm writing a book, turning my PhD into a book, and I'm also connecting this research about the first year of the war, about the start of the war, to current Russian invasion, since I found there are a lot of similarities, but also differences between the start of the war and current Russian invasion.
Now, we always think about scientific research as an area of human activity that routinely transcends national borders, that you have scientists at the sharp end of research and people working on the implementation of new science, working collaboratively across national borders, universities in one part of the world in contact with universities in another part of the world, friendships and professional relationships amongst scientists in completely different countries, sometimes very different systems of government. Now, I imagine that the war in Ukraine, the aggression launched by Putin earlier this year, will have had quite a big impact upon that tradition and practice of collaborative work. And I was wondering if you could perhaps describe for us what you have seen of this in your own work, but also in the work and the lives of those people you know, your fellow researchers.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting question, and I actually deal with it on a daily basis. And I would say that this war creates both challenges and opportunities for global cooperation in science and innovation. And on the one hand, in Ukraine, many research institutes and universities are destroyed, and many scientists are killed by Russia. But on the other hand, there are plenty of opportunities for Ukrainians, for Ukrainian scholars in other countries. And, I would like to share a bit of my personal experience. For many years, I have been struggling for my dreams. And my biggest obstacle was always my Ukrainian citizenship. And was looking for a PhD in different EU countries and for a job in Brussels. I was always told one thing: find a EU husband, so that to get citizenship and all opportunities will be open for me. And since I did not want to get a husband, my road was very long. And I got my PhD scholarship at University of Manchester only after 4 years of applications for looking for doctoral study. And now, due to this misfortune of Russian invasion of Ukraine, Ukrainian students and scholars have much more opportunities than me. And for example, I was helping such new projects as Science for Ukraine, Ukraine Global Universities, and I see there are plenty of scholarships, fellowships, scientific exchanges, which were created especially for Ukrainians. And this makes me very happy. It makes me very happy that Ukrainians will have this chance without a need to get a EU husband. But at the same time, probably that Ukrainian men are not allowed to live in the country. And so neither male students, so children 18, 19-year-old, or established scholars, they cannot go for study or collaboration abroad. And this breaks my heart. This is horrible, and this is against our liberal values of freedom. There are, of course, online opportunities, and I'm happy that foreign universities create these online opportunities of fellowships for scholars who are not able to leave Ukraine. But in any case, it's not the same, and I would be very happy if Ukrainian men had equal access to education and science now, because it's very important. And if I may mention also collaboration with Russia, because many people ask about this. Most Western countries stopped collaboration with Russian scientific institutions, with Russian state scientific institutions, which, in my opinion, is a good decision. However, Russian scholars and students can still come to the West, and some of programs, for example, Scientists at Risk, they include Russians, Belarusians, and Ukrainians all together. And I would like to mention that this is offensive for Ukrainians, and Ukrainian state has been protesting against this inclusion of all three nationalities together, because obviously Russians and Belarusians are attacking Ukrainians, and that's just not ethical. But in any case, Russian and Belarusian scholars who do not support the government, they have these opportunities, and they can come to the West and continue their study, continue their collaboration if they're against what is going on in their countries.
Thank you. And can I just probe a bit further on what you said about the links with Russia and Belarus? I mean, I'd be very interested to know, has until February this year, was there a lot of collaboration going on between scientists and other researchers in Ukraine and their counterparts in Russia and Belarus, or did that all come to an end in 2014 with the attack on Crimea and the Donbass?
Yeah, a lot of collaboration already stopped in 2014, and often it stopped from Russian side. For example, my father is a scientist in veterinary science, and these institutes could still have cooperation with their colleagues in Belarus. In the cooperation in Ukraine and Belarus is still going on, but Russian colleagues just refused to cooperate with Ukrainians. But still, it was not totally destroyed as after this current invasion.
I just wondered whether there was any chance that some perhaps Ukrainian researchers who had been working with Russian academics in the past might actually have a channel there where try and tell their counterparts in Russia what was really going on, and not to persuade them not to be taken in by the propaganda channels from the Kremlin. But from what you say, it sounds as if there's very little communication of that kind that is able to take place now.
This propaganda in Russia and this hate towards Ukrainians that was been developing for years.
Yeah. Yes. And do you think, looking forward, we all hope that the war will end as soon as possible, and with the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine fully restored. Let's hope that day comes soon. But when it does come, I mean, how easy is it going to be to rebuild some of these historic contacts with Russian scientists and universities? Or do you think, to be honest, that that's something that is just, after what has now happened, that's something that it's not realistic to think about for very many years into the future?
Do you mean between Ukraine and Russia? Between
Ukraine and Russia, yes.
Yeah, that would be very hard.
Yeah.
It would be very hard. Even some Russians who are pro-Ukrainian and against Putin, they're not welcomed in Ukraine now. It's very hard.
Yeah.
After all atrocities and rapes and killing of civilians, it's very hard for Ukrainians to have any communication with Russians. It would take decades for sure. Yeah,
I see that. If we look forward, I mean, thinking about the themes of today's conference more generally, I mean, are there perhaps one or two particular priorities that you would want to highlight as areas where it's particularly important that scientists and policymakers and business really work collaboratively, closely together?
Yes, I think that it's important that science, business, and policy should work together in condemnation of any aggression and human rights violations in the world. And I think that policy should enforce business and science, not to support and not to cooperate with anti-human regimes and the politicians. And so I'm talking about Russia, for example, or China. And speaking about United Kingdom, for example, you know that London has been a heaven for Russian, but also Ukrainian oligarchs, because they were able to hide their illegally earned money. And in my opinion, United Kingdom has this chance now to check the origins of this money better, and the assets of Russian oligarchs who are under sanctions could be confiscated, for example. And also the West could establish which countries hold the Russian central bank reserves, and this $300 billion be also confiscated as and paid to Ukraine as war reparations. Import of Russian gas and oil could be stopped, and this is also a chance for development of new solutions for green energy. So as I say, it's always challenge and opportunity. And the last thing, I think that business and science, what business and science should do is jointly aim at building peaceful, sustainable, and prosperous life, and not only in the West, but for every human being in all parts of the world. I think that's the most important.
Alina, great to talk to you. Best of luck with your work, and best of luck to you and your colleagues who are back in Ukraine, who are having to work under such difficult and frankly terrifying circumstances. We send our very best wishes to them. Thank you for sparing time to record this conversation.
Thank you very much. It was my